change inside of me. The inner human slowly dead in me. I feel it come alive. The darkness brings me light. There ain't no stopping it, and you will never hide from me. Pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night, ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. I'm still inside. I'm still here. What have I done? When did this all start? I have become a monster in the dark, a hunger like no other, running on instinct. Was this creature always inside of me? The pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night, ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. Whoa, you better hope so too. You better hope so too.
A dreaded flag, a vengeful sea. Be careful what you say. There's always someone listening. The Dutchman tossed on the sea. I swore and the devil heard me. Now we're doomed to sail the seven seas for eternity. So yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must hold. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. A sinister grin across his face said, you'll be doomed to this place. The devil heard my oath, shame of my boast. Oh, a ghostly ship from the depths, freedom from fear is the only gift of death. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must hold. If you cast your eyes, you'll join us like those before. We're an omen of the ocean night. When you see the flying Dutchman, it's too late for your soul. To the waters we gave now our grace. Let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must flow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo, let the ocean winds blow. Yo, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must flow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo, let the ocean wind blow. From long ago, the berserker traveled, crossing raging seas, snatching souls, devouring, conquering man beast. The seas could not tame me, war could not break me, to feel so alive. Overflowing elation, ready for war, ready for war, ready for war, ready for war. The lands could not hold me, the ocean could not keep me, though she tried. I traveled and conquered many times. Exhilaration swept in with the tide. Oh, the seas could not tame me, war could not break me, to feel so alive. Overflowing elation, ready for war, ready for war, ready for war, ready for war. Hunting for food and pleasure, I am now riches unknown. I wouldn't lie, I wouldn't death. Viking warrior, I am the beast, rising ready for battle. I fought my best, exiled to faraway lands, shape-shifting into what is more fitting. The seas could not tame me, war could not break me, to feel so alive. Overflowing elation, ready for war, ready for war.
Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner, along with my other hosts. Well, I don't know why you clicked it over. It shows Anthony sitting down. It just shows Anthony sitting down.
He was eager to show Banjo.
He wants to show Banjo.
Oh no, I just wanted to show.
I mean, I think everyone's eager to see Banjo.
The preparedness of both of us, and
He's prepared to pee on everything. He pees on everything in the house, including any like my shoes. That was it for me. I was like, "We're not friends right now, Banjo." Me and Banjo haven't been talking since a couple days ago. He peed on my shoes, so we'll eventually make amends. But right now, we're not talking. He's a boy dog. That's what they do. They pee on these little squirt.
He doesn't speak very good English anyway. He's still learning.
Yeah, he still has an accent.
Yeah, he doesn't understand no in English, only Spanish.
So if you're joining us from Blondes and Booze, there were like 260 something people in that chat. I know that there's probably, I would say, maybe 70, 80 people that listen to that show. They don't listen to us. Other than that, there's probably, I think most of us, we share an audience. We have the same audience. We share whatever. We're letting the chat fill up a little bit here.
it's actually not a bad idea.
It's hot in here. Y'all hot?
I'm all right, but I mean, I could turn the AC up.
Well, maybe it's just me. I'm just warm. I don't know what's going on.
It is just you.
Tyler Stevens says the rabbits in my yard only understand Chinese, so I feel that.
They're spies.
Yeah. Bryce Edwards says, loves Blondes and Booze. Yeah, Blondes and Booze, they do a good job, man. If you haven't subscribed, you really should. You should go and subscribe. There was a dog. You probably saw Banjo. Let me go ahead and move him back over there. There he is. You saw
You can barely
Banjo.
see him. Hold him up to the camera. I don't want to see our ugly faces. I want to see his ugly face.
It's,
There you go.
Banjo's like, what?
His little cock eyes,
What are you doing, Banjo?
derpy eyes. What's up, Papa? Bingo boy. There you go.
He's like, always until I'm not.
Yeah. Until he wants to pee on my stuff.
Yeah, that's
I will pee on everything you love.
the knock on him. Other than that, he's a good dog.
Like always sits like a person.
I wonder how long you can hold this thing on there without.
Not long.
Oh. See what you did?
And then he's picky
Dumb
too.
dog.
He's very picky. I gave him something to eat early, and he just like looked at it and kept begging.
What was it?
It was something from that thing you got me,
Oh,
and he didn't want it, man. He was just like,
It wasn't up to his standards. It wasn't the turd from another dog's butt.
he never. He would never.
he eats his own turds, dude.
He's
Yeah.
fine. He's a
Well,
connoisseur.
I mean, his own turds are like a delicacy.
Yeah.
But
I learned that from being on the streets. man.
other animals' turds will suffice in a pinch.
He's a
Isn't that right?
recycler. All right, he's not.
Okay, enough about Banjo and his taste for his penchant for whatever. We have another dog at the house that does that, and it's annoying. I can't stand it. But what can you do? Dogs are dogs, cats are cats, and they all do what they do. I can't be alone for a second without Panzer trying to break in. Him and Marta's trying to break into my office with the pig to go hang out. And I know they just want to hang out, man. They're just little animals. Truffles is good, Leone. Truffles is good. He's doing what he does. He does what pigs do. This is weird. This is a different setup here. I'm looking at it, trying to figure it out. So what we got going on? We have a lot to do, a lot to talk about, and it goes back a long ways because we have a lot of people who've been messaging us and sending us information, and so we're trying to keep up, and we're trying to get everybody's information out there and their stories, their encounters, every day I talk to more people who want me to retell their encounters. This story that we're going to tell you tonight comes from Belize, and the guy's father used to be the mayor of a town there. And he came to me and he said, look, he's like, I've been listening to the show for a long time. A long time. We've been around 5 years, but 3 years. And he has tried to email me a couple different times with the heading of werewolves are real. I did not notice that it was thrown into a file separate from Dogman, which became Werewolves. So I started going through there, and I found his email. The first one he sent me was back in 2021. Now, that was around the time my mother had passed away, and so that time was kind of like a blur. It was like in May, and so I was just like, I wasn't even, it was hard. It was a tough time for me. And I was going through a lot, and I was contemplating leaving the show behind because I just was so tired of the crap. Somebody who I had considered to be a friend that I had worked with, made some comments about me, and then floodgates were open, and it's been open ever since. I still think a lot of what's happened since then has kind of led back to that. And the people that were, but it was easy to get lost in the shuffle, let's put it that way. And but I wanted to revisit it, so I had messaged him about a year ago and said, hey, are you still up to talk about this? And he says, when I get time, because he traveled, and he was actually in Australia at one point, and he likes to go and explore and do things like that. So he actually saw what he claims to be a yowie when he was in Australia in the Blue Mountains. His family is very wealthy, and I'm not going to get into where they got their wealth, but his family is an old family. They come from way back from Spain, and so he told me, he's like, we were living in Belize. They have a house up in Maine. And he travels, and what he does is he actually lives off of a trust from when his father passed away, and then they invested well. He was telling me about some of his investments, which I wish I would have had the kind of money to put into those. So he's got a pretty cool existence to be able to go and travel and look for these creatures. But it started for him when he was young. And like I said, I want to get into it, but there's only 220 people in the chat, and I know that people will start showing up, and then they'll be lost because they don't know what's going on. Yeah, exactly. Volta BS coffee. That's it. Their family made the money through coffee. Yeah.
Colombian coffee crystals.
Colombian coffee crystals. It always cracked me up that like every morning Juan Valdez in the Colombian morning gets up on his burro and goes and picks beans like an idiot when everyone else is planning something else. He's picking the freshest fine damn bean for you to, consume. And his friends, they're like, yeah, okay, Juan, you got a burro. We're driving a Bronco. Okay, whatever. So, but Juan, he's committed. He's committed to the coffee bean.
Juan wants to go to heaven. He's a good man.
Yeah, you're living there with this volcanic, soil that can grow one of the things that can make a lot of money, and he decides, you know what, I'm gonna be a good person, and I'm gonna plant coffee.
Yeah, his soul is more valuable than money.
Yeah,
He's a good man.
Exactly right.
Him and his donkey.
Him and his donkey both. His donkey Boo Boo. We named his donkey Boo Boo in honor of Banjo's diet. So
donkey doo-doo.
So here's what he told me. He says, when I was a child, we lived in a very large house, and I thought, when he first started talking about it, this is what he first told me. He didn't tell me about the places he had traveled to and where he had been, and he had basically a Bigfoot dog, a werewolf dogman story / whatever, and so I was like, big house, I'm thinking, how big? And he said that it was 11,000 square foot.
That's a commercial, but that's a hotel.
Yeah. But if you think about it, though, Herb Baumeister, you know, the serial killer Herb Baumeister, we were talking about these bad people earlier on the show on Blondes and Booze or whatever. His house was 11,000 square feet.
That's a red flag for me. Like, I don't know. Like, why would a single family need that?
You don't need
11,000 square feet.
Well, because when he's killing
what you
people
do,
on one wing, they didn't want to,
exactly. Like, that's why it's a red flag.
he doesn't want people hearing and interrupting.
Yeah.
Like,
All
I
he
understand
sees-
a lot of land, but a big house just doesn't make sense.
See what we got.
That's a
here.
commercial building at that point. It doesn't even feel
really
like
is.
a house.
Even cleaning it is like
wasn't
logistically
Topgolf-
impossible.
One
at
of
that
our
point, you get
clients-
people for that. You don't clean your
Yeah.
own house at that. Huh?
One of our clients, Topgolf, it was like what 11,900 square foot or something. That building.
I think so.
It's like a house the size of Topgolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then at that point, if you're getting people to clean it, what's the point of having all those extra rooms to murder people in? Because then those cleaners might stumble upon that.
Well, what's crazy is there's people living in that house now. They're two doctors. They're a married couple, and the husband and wife. And they claim to hear noises all the time, and they don't even care.
Wow.
Like they found the DNA evidence of at least 50 different people that Baumeister killed.
Yeah, George, look, I found a spine in the yard today.
Well, what's even more scary about that is that that house is so big. Like when you hear a noise, yeah, it could be a spirit or a ghost or something scary or supernatural, but it could also be an intruder. You're not gonna know. I mean, by the time you get all the way to where you heard it, there's 1,000 places they could be.
They probably still do, like I said that as a joke, but they probably still do find like body parts, like pieces.
They do.
Yeah.
The last I checked was a couple of years ago, like maybe 3-4 years ago, and they had said that they had found up to 50 different, the DNA of 50 different people. They'll never know because the coward went to Canada and he killed himself on a park bench. So that he took the secret to his grave. They always do that. They know they could bring some closure to the peoples, and they get off on dying and taking it with them.
Oh yeah.
There is something seriously wrong with these people, and they'll have family members that are like, I'm praying for their soul. Don't bother.
Well,
Because it's not gonna help. I'm telling you, they're beyond redemption.
It's a reprobate mind.
is that worse than someone like the Iceman who has killed so many people he doesn't even know? Who he's killed like so
Well,
many.
that's what they all say.
randomly?
They don't know, but they do. They do, because I'm telling you, it's a lie. It's a lie that a lot of them, and they want to do that. They want to take the secret with them to their grave. It gives them some sort of like what's his name? Bundy. I mean, like to the end, he was defiant. He wasn't going to talk. Gacy, same thing. He wasn't going to say, who, and there have been other killers who they've interviewed and they've said, like, look, these guys are lying. He goes, if they're anything, a lot of them have the same mental mindset. And so they're just liars, man. They could easily tell the truth because they reminisce over their kills.
Yeah.
A lot of them, and they'll have like keepsakes or trophies, whatever.
Yeah, they'll often go back to
But we're not here to talk about that. We're getting off track. Look, what I'm gonna say, what I'm talking about right now is this guy's encounter and what happened to this dude when he was living in Belize. His first encounter with something from the unknown was a ghost. So we'll start with that. He was 6 years old when he first remembers. Or actually before that, but when he was 6 years old, he remembers like something like a shadow coming out of the wall and tucking him into bed. And for some reason, he just said that he goes, I knew that it was my grandmother. I knew it was my grandmother. And for those of you who wonder what I'm wearing, this is Julius Caesar, Veni Vidi Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. So, when he first had that encounter, he said he can't remember. He was toddling. He was young, but it was the first of multiple encounters with what we would call shadow people. And we've talked about this a lot on the show. These people that see these shadow and people, they have these encounters. One of these things came out of a hall closet carrying towels. It looked like a maid, but it was just like an all black shadow. And that was when he was 6 years old. He said that was the most profound because this one acknowledged him in a way that the other ones hadn't, other than the first one that had tucked him in. And this one, he said that when it turned, it looked back at him, it had red glowing eyes, but it was like a maid. And it said that it was literally holding towels that were also black, like shadow, because it dropped them and then it turned and ran away from him. So he was like in shock. He was standing there as a child, sitting there looking like, what did I just see? And he remembers his little brother was riding a tricycle. This was weird. He wakes up one day and he hears laughter or whatever, and it was like 6 a.m. and his house overlooked this big, this it was like on a vista, he could see everything. Mm-hmm. And he says, I come out onto my patio, onto my balcony. He had a balcony to his room. And so he comes out onto his balcony and he looks, and his little brother is being pushed around. As he was 7 at this time, his little brother was 4. And his little brother doesn't remember this, but he said his little brother was being pushed very quickly down a hill by some sort of like entity that was, you could see through the legs, but the top part, like it was black, and it kind of like it faded down and got less black as it went down to the legs. And he said that it had hair that was moving around like a woman's, which was terrifying. And so he grew up in this like haunted manor, basically. And this was the house that they were using to like live or whatever, it wasn't their main house. They had a house that had a plantation that was his familial house from his dad's side of the family. This was the house that was left to them by his mother's grandfather. So they spent the majority of his childhood there, and they would just go out to the big house, which they called it the big house, which he said was almost twice the size of that one. And it was like an estate. Wow. And they had like servants and stuff that just lived there. It was like Downton Abbey type stuff, whatever. And so whenever he went back to that house, he said that one was the one where he had the most things that would happen. Not the least of which was he saw something come out of the woods that were on the left side. When you walk out of the house, he's like, you're facing the west. He's like, to the left or the south, whatever. He goes, I would see something moving around in the woods at night. I couldn't tell what it was. And eventually he went outside one day when he was like 9. And he's like, and I just sat there and I had these binoculars and it was dusk. And I stared at the tree line. And at the tree line, he's like, I saw what looked like a giant ape-like monkey thing. But it was like skinny. Hold on one second. Let me turn the camera to these guys real quick here. Oh, no, let me get it. There it goes.
You got it? All right.
You can give it up, buddy. That's enough out of you.
Let's see.
All right.
Junior J. Vargas. Yeah, he's been, he has a couple hats here. He's been switching out.
Yeah, because one of them wasn't comfortable. But I realized what it was. I didn't have it set right. But I've been so out of it that I didn't even have a chance to. Thank you. No, yes, please leave it there. My wife is just giving me something to drink. Thank you. She doesn't want anybody to know she's here taking care of me. She's helping me. I left my medication at the house, and so my wife, being the nice person that she is, she brought it up to me. Thank you, honey. So anyway, sorry about that, folks. I had to explain what it was going on because these two didn't talk. They just sat there like idiots. So anyways.
You had a microphone in front of you?
I was taking my medication, dumbass. What do you think? What am I supposed to do?
It takes 2 seconds.
I'm smart. I
gotta
can
be a
do
mouthpiece.
things. Where are these things?
I got to be a mouthpiece for you now?
Where are these things?
Because I'm not the best speaker in the world, so that would be a very dumb decision on your part.
All right. So anyways, so what ends up happening, he sees this thing in the tree line, and it looks like a black gorilla ape-like thing, almost chimp-like. And he had been hearing stories from when he was young that there was like these ape-like creatures. They didn't say they would call them gorillas or monkeys, but they didn't really know what they were. And so he was a kid. He's roughly my age. He's a little bit older than me. He's 50. But he was saying that, when he was a kid, he would see these things, and this is the first time he saw one, and it was only at the villa, the big house, whatever. And so, see, he said he looked in the tree line and he saw this thing crawling around, and then it just like vanished, like it ran back into the woods, and he thought, oh my gosh. So he went to his dad, and he told his dad in all the years that he had been there around that plantation had never seen this before. So his dad was really interested in it. So his dad actually paid, thank you, Shade Viking, for that donation. What is that? Belize. Oh, okay.
It's a pun.
I get it. It's a pun. No, they're going to take that and run with it. Go, he's satanic. But so thank you for that donation. But so what ended up happening, his dad decided to organize an expedition. So when he was a kid, when he was 10, he got to tag along, and they went deep into the jungle to look for these supposed apes. And they found what looked like what could have been habitation that could show that there was something there. But he could never prove it. Like, they never did prove it. They never did find anything. But one thing they did find was a cave. And there was a big rock in front of this cave, and you could see that there was an opening just big enough for like maybe something twice the size of a human that could squeeze through. And so they decided to push this rock over that cave, over that, to close it, because there had been reports of people going missing out into those woods. And his uncle and his dad thought, well, maybe they're falling into this hole. And just to make sure that people are safe, we're just going to close it up. So they did. So they went and they took several men, and they closed the hole with this big rock that looked like it had been there at one point, but it had been torn away. And he said that they got at least most of the way till there was only a narrow opening. And he said, when I was a child, I saw this with my own eyes, along with like 11, 12 other people. He said, I don't remember how many people were standing there. He goes, maybe a dozen or maybe a bit less. So my words, 11 or 12. And he said we heard this screeching, howling noise coming from in that cave. And he said, right before my eyes, he said, we see these weird looking clawed-like hands grab a hold of that boulder and just start moving it like effortlessly, something that had taken like 9 or 10 guys to push. And they were trying to use wood and everything else to get it to move. And he said this was like 20 miles out into the middle of nowhere. There was nothing within 20, 30 miles by our standards. They go by kilometers. And he said that this thing began to like move. And then he said he sees the top of something's head, and it had these spiraling horns that were about 2 feet long. And he's like standing there, and he's in shock. And he was actually closest to it. And as a child, one of the porters just grabbed him and pulled him away from it. It was like, hey, get away from this thing, whatever. And as it began to come out of that hole, he said, what came out of that hole? He's like, I'm going to tell you, Mr. Turner. He's like, I saw this when I was a child, 10 years old. He said it looked like a dragon man. And he's like, I've heard you talk about this on the show recently when we were communicating, And I was like, a dragon man? He said, yes. He said, if you took a man and made him 9, 10 feet tall and converged him with a dragon, this is what I saw. And he said, I am not joking. He's like, this is not a joke. Because, at first I was quiet and I just was listening, and I guess he wasn't used to me and my style of how I talk to people. I think that he took it like I was, and I mean, we'll call him Frank. That's short for his real name. But Frank, I think you took it as like I was not believing you. I was just listening. I was intently listening and taking notes. One of the things that struck me, though, was that this thing was completely black. It was completely black. There was no reptilian coloring to it, like how reptiles a lot of times they'll have a greenish brown, whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. This thing was
no scales.
scales. It was black. It was scales,
Okay.
but it was black, completely black. And he said that it was so black, it was like this dark color, almost like the shadow people he had seen. And the facial features were hard to make out other than the whiteness of the teeth. And every tooth in its mouth was sharp and jagged. And he said that this thing came flying up out of there, and it swooped around. And before his 10-year-old eyes, like this thing swooped down and just grabbed a dude that was standing there. He's like, it was just one of the workers, and lifted him up 30, 40 feet and just dropped him onto some rocks. And at that point, everybody started firing at this thing. And then it just took off into the sky and was gone. This was broad daylight, like 2 p.m. This was no like nighttime encounter, like something that came in the night, like a terror. No, this thing came at broad daylight. Thank you for that donation, JG. So when we started breaking this encounter down, I got every bit of information I could about it. He said that the feet were clawed. He remembers seeing like 3 toes and then a 4th digit. But it was like that digit set up higher, so that if you saw, this is important too, I think, too. He's like, if you saw the footprints of it, which we saw many times after that day because we disturbed whatever it was, he said there were 3-toed tracks. Now, he said that they had a couple people that were working there that were from Mexico, and they nicknamed it Quetzalcoatl. And they called it that. That was what they called it. Quetzalcoatl monstro. They talked about this thing like it was a legit real thing. Like it was, this was no spiritual thing. This was not a ghost or a phantom. This was a physical thing, and it was doing physical harm. There was a story that he got when he was at the other place that now we'll just try to, to keep track of which place is which. The villa, which is where he had that's the place that's like, humongous, that overlooked the plantation. The other place was where he had this like vista view, whatever. So we'll call one the vista and one the villa. Okay. The vista's a small one. That's where he spent a lot of his childhood. His mother did not like going out to the villa because she thought that it was evil. And I'm thinking, okay, you have maids with glowing red eyes dropping towels. That's pretty evil, but whatever. But he was right, though. He said that the villa was just uncomfortable at times. There was like something always there kind of watching you, stalking you, sort of shadowy people, things like that. But he's like, when you went to out into the villa, way out into the middle of nowhere, the big place, the plantation house, he said there was a foreboding in the area around it. Like there was something evil there. And then he realized, years later, when he was 16 years old, he went with his younger brother and they had 2 cousins that their parents died in a bad fire, which was suspicious how that happened. But the children were spared, and they ended up living with them, and they were raised along with them like brothers and sisters. So there were 3 children of his parents, and then his uncle that died, they came to live with him when he was like 11. And they were all younger than him. And Rodrigo, one of them, they were very close. It was his best friend. They grew up together. And so they all went into this cave. Interesting. This cave was not the one where this Quetzalcoatl came out of. This cave was like, there was a tunnel. And you could see that at one point it was just natural. It was naturally made. But then it began to narrow, and it was like somebody had expanded it, and they had dug it out, and they found tools and things down in there. And he goes, we just kept going and going and going for what seemed like miles, or for them kilometers. He's like, and then we ended up, and there was like a stairs, and there was like a little door, like a trap door. He's like, and so we tried to go up into it, and we couldn't. He's like, and then when I was like 19, he's like, my dad, I went down into the wine cellar. He's like, and there were these boards, and I noticed when we were stepping on them, and I had never noticed this before, And he's like, and I hadn't been down there very much because it was a scary place. And one time when I was down with one of my sisters, we heard a voice talk to us, say our names. It was like a woman's voice that scared us. And what did it say? Who's bullying in the PRT chat? Ready or not? Here I come. I'm going to find you.
Samantha just had to delete a comment that was a little bit dicey. But
somebody need to
they just warned the person they weren't being too...
let's be careful. So what ended up happening, he said that we ended up going down into this tunnel, and when we came up and we couldn't get through the top of it. But the tunnel kept going. It was just, there was the stairs there. Mm-hmm. And so he said that he asked his dad about the weak boards, and his dad didn't know anything about it. So his dad, being curious like him, they went back down there with shovels, and they started banging on the floor. And they found that it was a false floor. And that when they opened it up, there was a locked, like there was like a little bit of space, like 8 inches. And he said there was a lock on this like trap door. And he said it looked like the trap door he had seen when he was 16 looking up. Mm-hmm. And he said, but it was he thought for sure this is the top of it. So they went and they finished dinner. They had dinner and all this stuff, whatever. And then they went back down there with some guests that were friends of his dad's. And they busted the lock. And they went down. And sure enough, that was the tunnel. And his dad had no knowledge of this at all. And the only people that would have known would have been his dad. And his great-grandfather built it. But they would have no way to know why that was built or why it led out to a cave in the middle of nowhere. So here's what happened. Years later, after that, he was like in his 20s. He said, I was out exploring, wandering around, and I got the idea. He goes, I want to go back down into that tunnel and just, see what I can find. I'm going to keep, and I'm going to go. It kept going, you know what I mean? He had never had the nerve to do it, and his cousins were afraid to go down there because they had heard noises and stuff, and they heard all these crazy stories. So he goes back down into the cave by himself. By himself. And he says, this creature at that time was very active too, this Quetzalcoatl, whatever it is the Mexicans would call it. He said it had killed multiple people in the fields. Like it had grabbed people. And he thinks that it was like, it would feed. Like it was going and it would grab somebody on the edge of the woods or, that were close to because the woods surrounded the plantation fields. And it would catch somebody alone and it would grab them. And a lot of times people would go missing and they would just say, well, the Quetzalcoatl got it. Yeah. And they didn't know. But there were 2 incidents in particular when he was a teenager, once when he was 15, once when he was 16, where this thing actually grabbed people. And the way that it would kill them was it would take them up into the sky and drop them. And then they would die, and then it would go and pick them up and take them off. So that was its method of killing. So it was a horrific creature. And they didn't know what to do. They had shot it, but the bullets didn't seem to do anything. They didn't penetrate it. So he is walking through this cave that's underneath his house, underneath this villa, which he was starting to spend more and more time there because he's like, I have this spirit of exploration. I want to know. This guy's traveled all over the place. He's been to France. He's been all the way from there all the way to Romania. He hiked and backpacked his way across Europe, and he's been to Tibet, been a lot of other places. Shown me a lot of really cool photos, a lot of cool things he's done, and it's pretty interesting. He's met a lot of pretty cool people. I could tell some of the people that he's has pictures with. But it's interesting that he's been involved in actually going out and doing real boots on the ground research on these creatures and beings, and he's not even bragging about it. He's not posting it everywhere. He's not making a big deal about it. It's for himself. He wants to do it for himself and no other reason. He's like, I want to know the truth, but it's for me. I personally want to know. He's curious. And so I can respect that. I can respect somebody who's doing, trying to figure it out because he wants to know for himself. So whenever he was walking under this tunnel, thank you for that donation, Zach, who factors, I'm here, better late than never. Exactly. And so he says he hears something like footfall walking behind him. And he goes, and at one point, there was like a flood. And so there was water that was sitting up above that tunnel so that you could hear the leaking of the water. And he said he was like 22 years old. He's walking through there, and he had been through there several times and never had anything like this happen. And he hears the noise because something had entered the cave behind him. And he said it was probably about 50 yards behind him where there was no more light. He turned and he had a flashlight, and whatever it was, it looked like it got down and was like, his flashlight couldn't penetrate far enough. And he's like, something was down on the ground though. He's like, and I knew how far I was to get to the ladder to get up into the wine cellar. He's like, and it was opened at that point, you know. He's like, I had a key. He's like, so I'm like, I need to move myself quickly to get to this ladder. So he starts to run as fast as he can, and this thing got up and took off running towards him. And when he stopped for just a second to look back with his flashlight, he says, Wolf, I'm going to tell you like this. He goes, I saw something I never thought that I could not even imagine. It was never even on my radar to see this thing. He said, what I was looking at was a huge, tall, bipedal, hairy, canid-looking humanoid creature with an elongated snout. He goes, and then it was running on all fours. The legs were not a backward bent dog-like legs. He said they were like human-like legs. And he said that this thing was just running towards him as fast as it could. And it was like running like a man, like, you know, like the locomotion of a man. And he says, dude, there's nothing that can prepare you for that. He goes, so I took off running. He's like, and I got to the ladder. He's like, but I didn't have time to climb up this ladder and start trying to put a key up into the lock and push this really heavy. And he said that thing was about 40 pounds, 50 pounds. And you got to push it while you're holding yourself up on the ladder at an awkward angle. 40, 50 pounds doesn't seem like a lot, but if it's, you know, moved out over, you know, a foot and a half.
The shape of a weight is...
The shape, yeah. And then it's awkward, you know. So he's like, dude, I just kept going. He goes, I kind of grabbed the stairs and just said, to hell with it. I kept running. And he goes, and I had been really, really far down up into this tunnel. And eventually it leads into a cave where there's a bunch of water. He's like, and then there's different holes in the wall, in the cave wall. And then he goes, and I've gone through two of them and had gone for a long, long ways until one of them kind of dead-ended into like a little crevice. And then the other one, he goes, I just went far and I quit going because it just kept going. And he goes, so now I guess I'm going to find out where these things lead because there is a werewolf running behind me. And so he goes, I go and get into the cave. He goes, when you get to the opening, the mouth of this cave, it's like the water, everything in there has this kind of bluish tint to it. He's like, there's just a little bit of light coming through like this crevice, which is bizarre because it's coming through the side wall and the sun is not coming through there. So he goes, so there is some weird light, like twilight going on in that cave. So it's like almost like a self-illuminated, place. And he said he had been in there with his dad and his cousins. People have gone with him. They'd gone to the opening of it, and then they would never go any further. And his dad just told everybody, stay out of here. You know, we already know that there's some demonic, whatever, as he called it, a diablo, flying around in the skies, doing whatever it's doing, that came from one of these damn caves. We don't know what's down here. And so this was the first time he had ever gone into this opening by himself. And he says, when you get to the edge of this, there's about a 9-foot drop. He's like, but it's sloping. And he goes, so I started to walk down it slowly, but then I slid, and then I went and I rolled, and I stood up and went face first into the water. And he said that this thing came to the edge of the cave and was standing there looking at him. And when he looked up, he could see it. He was in the water. The water's only about waist high. He stands up, and he sees this werewolf-looking creature. He could barely make it out. Belize, yes, this is where this is at. And he's like, and I'm staring at it. He's like, and I have nothing, dude. He goes, I had a machete with me. I had dropped it somewhere. Didn't have my flashlight. Didn't know where it was at. Had nothing. He's like, so I'm looking up at this werewolf-looking being, creature, whatever it is, and it's standing there at the mouth of the cave where I would have to go to get out. And And he's like, at that point, he goes, I just started praying. I was like, in the name of Jesus. He goes, I had a rosary that I wore that my aunt had given me before she passed. He's like, and I was holding it. I was clutching it, and I was saying the Lord's Prayer. He's like, I was saying, Hail Mary, Mother. He's like, every prayer, this is what people have told me many times. They just start praying. And he said he says he hears a noise coming from one of these holes. And he said it sounded like a lion's roar. And he's like, dude, I cannot believe what's happening. He goes, I held my heart. And I could almost, when he was telling me this, I could almost feel it like it was, like it was happening to me. I was there in my study and I felt like I was going to hyperventilate. I was like listening to this guy. And he says, man, and he's got an accent, but he speaks very good English. He's very well educated. He's got a master's degree and he's a smart guy. And so he's like, man, he goes, my heart was beating up into my throat. And I thought, I'm going to die of a heart attack. I'm not even going to, whatever this stuff isn't going to kill me. He said, but I was terrified of this werewolf-looking creature, but it wasn't coming down into the opening of the cave, and I don't know why. He goes, and then I hear this roaring sound, like, kind of at a distance. He's like, and then I hear it again. He's like, and then I look up, and this wolf being had turned and ran off, was gone. He's like, and then I was faced with a dilemma. Do I stand here in the water, maybe get down in it and hide from whatever's coming out of one of these holes? Or do I go up the hill, climb my way up, and go down that tunnel and face possibly extermination at the hands of a freaking werewolf? Or whatever that was. And he told me, he says, dude, I have never been so scared in my entire life. He said years later when he was in Australia and he went on a little expedition with some people, he saw what he believes two Yowie, that they call them, in the Blue Mountains. And he said they were so close to him, he could almost touch them. And he said they were big and scary and terrifying. And yellowish blonde hair on one of them and reddish hair on the other. And they looked almost like what you would think of as like if you took a Bigfoot and bred it with a Neanderthal giant or like some sort of Nephilim. He said, and they were scary. He said, it scared me. And people we were with, he goes, one of the ladies was crying. She was so terrified. Everybody was being very quiet. And it was at night. And they had these little trip wires, and that's how they saw this thing. And then he's like, it was like a 3 or 4 second encounter, but they were gone. He's like, and it was scary to be that close to. He's like, it was right above my head. He's like, but that did not scare me because what I saw that day in the cave was way more terrifying than anything I had ever seen in my entire life. He's like, I sat there, frozen in fear, standing in this water, this nasty water that he was in. Where's the count? I don't see it.
The what?
Count for the time.
Oh, hang on, let me see.
There it is. That's good. Leave it like that. What you got? This other wasted space here, though. There you go. So he said what he saw was one of the most terrifying things he had ever seen in his life. And he's like, this roar, this sound of whatever it was. Thank you for that donation, Shade. I appreciate it. Chat is moving very fast. Oh, no, that was previous. Okay.
Yeah.
It's catching up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So thank you to everybody who donated. So what he saw, he's like, I will never forget as long as I live. He's like, there was this creature that came out of this hole. And it had to squeeze its body through. He's like, and it looked very similar to the thing that came out of the cave that day when I was a 10-year-old child. And of course, he said this was like 12 years ago. Had never seen anything like it since until this day. And he goes, in this day, I saw something. He's like, it looked like the devil. And I've heard that before. And we've talked about it on the show. But he said the face, the head of this thing, it looked like if you were to take like a cat and a dog and a dragon and mix it all together. And he said the wings, this thing had wings, like big wings. And it was about twice the size of this Quetzalcoatl that they were talking about that was flying around doing what it did. And he said, this thing didn't see me at first. I was ducked down just barely with the top of my head looking at it through the water. He's like, my nose was just like this, and I was squatted down, and I was at the deepest part of this pool. And this bluish light that was shining in this cave. And he's like, thank you for that donation, Nicholas. I appreciate that. So he's looking at this creature. And this creature is kind of looking around, looking for him. And it's on all fours. Once it pops out, and I say pop because he says that it kind of squeezed out of the hole. And then it got up and it stood up. He said this thing was about 15 foot tall.
Ugh.
Now, if you could imagine something that big, reptilian-like.
It's like a Nephilim mutant.
He's like, but what really scared me was that there was more. Because behind it, there were 2, and then 3, and then 4 other things that looked like those, like the thing that came out of that cave that day when I was a child, which was clear on the other side of the property, a good 30 miles from where he was at here, 20, 25 miles, whatever. And he said, this is what lives down there. And he said sometimes underneath this villa that they lived at part-time where he lived, they would hear noises that sounded like explosions, like boom, like big loud noises, booming noises. And then sometimes, he's like, especially when we were in the game room, we'd be playing video games or ping pong or whatever. We had all kinds, we had a pool table.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, and us kids, we'd be playing and something would move and we'd think it was an earthquake. And our dad kept telling us, there's no earthquake over here. We don't know what that is.
Underground demolition.
And he said these things were huge. The first one was the biggest one, but there were 3 or 4 that were about the size of the one that they kept calling the Quetzalcoatl. And then he realized, he goes, there wasn't just one of them. This must be a group of these things. And he looked at the entrance to this cave. And he said, well, judging by how far it was, he goes, it was about 40, 45 yards. And these things were starting to walk around the pool. He's like, so I had a choice. I had to get up out of that water and run. He's like, because I knew that entrance was not, they could not fit through it. There was no way they could squeeze themselves through that entrance. But he had this 7-foot-tall werewolf-type creature that had just chased him into this cavern. So what is he going to do? He's sitting there and he's going like, and he doesn't know what that is because he's never seen it or heard anything. He doesn't know what the hell that is. He did tell me this, that he believed that this thing was something human, the thing that chased him. And he has reasons for it, especially later on. I'll get into that. But he said, he's like, that thing paled in comparison to these monstrosities, that's my words, walking around to my left. He's like, and I was just watching them. And he goes, and then one of them got down to drink water, and it was like drinking the water. And then he goes, and then it stops, and kind of, he goes, it closes its mouth, and then kind of looks forward. Like, he's like, I'm like, Imperial system, ours, he's like about 12 feet away. And he says, and I'm looking at it, and it's making eye contact with me. And it's like, then it sits up. Like, it knows he's there.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, he's like, dude, I don't know what possessed me, what superhuman ability I had in my body. He's like, but I exploded up out of that water, and I shot off for that entrance. He goes, and amazingly, he's like, I look, and they all just were kind of standing there looking like they were kind of stunned. Not even like... it's crazy. Like, there's no explanation. He's like, they just were kind of like shocked to see something burst up out of the water. And he said that the one that saw him was kind of like, it backed up like it was shocked. and began to like make this weird like grunting noise to the others. And the big one like kind of just moved its hand, and they all just kind of converged, running toward me. And then a couple of them were kind of flapping their weird bat-like wings, but they were banging into each other. And he goes, and I ran up that hill. He's like, and I get up to the top, and one of them reaches for my foot, and I look back, and it was like biting and snapping, and it had a long neck, a little bit longer than the other ones. It was like a different type of creature or something. He's like, there were like two of them that looked like that. And this thing had a weird, like more like a long snake-like neck and a weird looking head. And the others were like squatted with big shoulders like traps, you know. And he's like, this thing almost got me. He's like, and I got free, and I turned and I looked, and it was at the entrance. It had crawled its way up and was like moving its head back and forth trying to get to me. And I looked, he goes, and I could see all the way down the hall. And he said the ladder was little bitty, you know, I could see it. Like I could just make it out. It was dark, you know, your eyes adjust to the dark. And he's like, it has to be the ladder. And so he just like, I just began to crawl, and then I just ran. And he's like, this thing, I looked back, and it was like trying to squeeze itself through this small opening, but it couldn't do it. He's like, and so I kept going. I kept running. I kept going. He's like, and then I get to the ladder, and then I hear this growling noise coming from the hall, down the hall from me. And he's like, and I'm thinking, oh, damn, this thing is still there. But it sounded like it was toward the entrance, like kind of waiting. And so he jumps up, gets up the ladder, and starts unlocking the key, gets the thing, pushes it open, gets inside and closes it and puts the lock, you know, on the top part of it, and was like, done. And he said, and sometimes that there would be a lock on the top, you know, but he was really the main one that would come and go. So he was hoping that none of his siblings or cousins or anybody had gone, and because if he did, he'd be screwed. So by the grace of God, he got up there, and he said, I laid there on the floor of that wine cellar. He's like, and a few minutes later, the door to the wine cellar floor starts going boom, boom, like something was trying to get up in there. And he's like, and I knew it was this wolf-like creature. I knew that that's what that was, that this thing was trying to get to me. He says, and I rolled over. He's like, and I just started to crawl. He goes, and I had gashed my leg really bad, and I don't know how. I can't remember if it was one of these creatures that scratched me, if it had actually managed to touch me, or if I'd cut it on some rocks. He goes, but my leg was cut all the way down. It was bad. He goes, and I was bleeding bad. He goes, and so I just took off limping down the hallway. He goes, and then I got around the corner, and I went up the stairs, and it was this long flight of stairs. He gets up to the top, and the door is locked. And so he starts banging on the door, and he goes, I'm banging on the door. Somebody comes up, finally, one of the servants, and they open the door, and he's standing there, and his leg is bleeding, and he tells them the whole story, and they get him in, whatever. And he said that the next day, he had a cousin that had come, and he had never met this person before. And he said that it was his dad's first cousin. His dad told him, hey, you know, this is our cousin. He's been living in Portugal. And he said this guy introduced himself, and he was like very striking, very tall, good-looking guy, you know, looked a lot like his dad and his uncle, and had never heard of this dude before. And this guy introduces himself, and then at dinner that night, they start talking, and he says, you know, you really should be more careful when you're down in those tunnels. Now, here's the thing. He did not tell anyone but the servant that let him in. And so he was like shocked by that. So he asked this guy, and he tells him, he says, you know, I have a question for you. And they called him Pablito. And he said, Pablito. He's like, how do you know that I was in the tunnels? And he goes, well, I assumed getting a gash like that on your leg. And then he stood up and he says, I'm done with dinner. I'm going to go retire to my room. And the next day after that, he stayed in his room most of the day. He gets a knock on the door. He opens the door, and it's his dad's cousin. His dad's cousin had, like, you know, what do they call it? Like a Reptilian, what is it called? The people that they come with, you know, like a
Entourage.
entourage or whatever they have. And he says, one of them told him, he's like, you know, hey, we're gonna go hunting. You want to go? And he tells them, hunting what? They said, oh, this, that, and the other, whatever we can find in the jungle. They're like, your cousin is an avid hunter. The cousin's not speaking. He's just standing there looking at him, like observing him. And he says, no, primo Paulito, no, I'm gonna stay in. My leg is hurt. And he says, yeah. He goes, I got something for that. And he gives him this bottle of this white silverish cream. And he says, put that on your leg and it'll heal very quickly. And so he did. He said, and then a couple days go by, he goes, and I was no longer limping. And believe it or not, my leg was healing amazing.
Yeah, but what was that stuff?
And he said, but every night he was having these weird dreams. Mm-hmm. And in these dreams, he was seeing this reptilian thing flying over, trying to grab him. And he still had not told everybody what he saw down there, or even that he was down there. But he went to the servant. And he talked to him. And he went to this guy, and he says, hey, Hector, that's the guy. And he says, did you tell my cousin that you had let me out of the wine cellar? When you asked me where I was, I told you I had been down in the caverns. Did you tell him? And he says, no, Patron, I have no reason to. He never asked, and I didn't. And he goes, okay, that's what I thought. So a couple more days go by, and he notices his uncle, cousin, whatever. They called him uncle, but it was really his dad's cousin. And he said he had a gash on his arm from when they were out hunting. And he says, yeah, it's healing up, whatever. And he gives him that salve, and he goes, why don't you put some, he had it on a cloth. He said, why don't you put some of this on there? And he said he pulled his hand back and jumped up out of his chair like he was coming out of his skin. And he said, oh, no, I'm good. He goes, it's healing. It'll heal fine. I heal quick, Mm-hmm. So he tells me, he says, I thought that was weird that my cousin would jump back like that and act like I was about to put poison on him. And I told him, I said, this stuff works great. Why don't you use it? And he goes, no, I'm good. He goes, because it could get infected. It's the jungle. There's no telling what it could have. And he says, no, I got it on some thorn trees. It's okay. I'm fine. And he goes, what is the active ingredient in this? I said, there's a few different things in there. He's like, yeah, because it's kind of shiny, like when I put it on my skin. Kind of silvery looking. And his cousin, uncle, whatever, says, oh, yeah, that's one of the active ingredients. It's colloidal silver, and it's got a few other things in it that's really good for you. And he's like, wow, Smurfy, let's not be Smurfy now. So he jumps back like he's going to die if he puts this stuff on his arm. And in point of fact, maybe he would have. Who knows? Mm-hmm. So then he goes back to his room and he contemplates everything that has been going on. He goes, I started to put two and two together, man. I'm telling you, and something wasn't right. So I went to my dad and I said, who is this guy and how do you know him? Because I've never heard of this guy. And then the truth comes out. His dad says, look, he's a guy that I've known for years. He's like, and your mother would never approve. He's a businessman. I've known him for a long, long time. We have something that we're going to do with. We're going to do a deal with this guy, and then we're going to, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's above your pay grade. So in order to convince your mother to let him stay, I had to tell her a lie. He was our cousin. He's not really our cousin. He's like, yeah, I could kind of figure that because I've never met this guy. Never heard of him. Never knew an uncle or cousin, Pablo. And so, of course, he goes to his mother. He said at that time my mother was very ill. And he thinks it was because of these people. She didn't like them, didn't trust them, didn't want them in her house. And so amazingly, she gets ill after she drank something that one of these old women that he had hanging around with him.
Oh, no.
One of them looked like an old crone, as he said, like a witch. He said it was like my dad was under some sort of spell from these people. All he saw was dollar signs. He said, and I'll be honest, my dad's a dreamer, but he's a very greedy person. He's like, and that's why I left the family a long time ago. He goes, I love my dad, I love my mother, I love my siblings, but they're all consumed with jealousy and money. He's like, and it's just something that doesn't interest me. He's like, it doesn't interest me because we've always had it. But it's never been something that I've in my life, I've never used it a lot other than to go places. He goes, and then, I've been absolutely dirt broke and traveling across Eastern Europe. And he's like, and so I've gotten by without having to use money for everything. He goes, my family, they can't do that. They need money for everything. Any problem that arises, money.
Just throw money at it.
He's like, not me. I'm not that guy. And he said, I knew something was wrong. He said, when I was a kid, I had gone to the market in the capital, there in Belize. And he says, and I bought this silver buckshot. And I have some. Actually comes in a little container, and it's just BBs. And they're made of silver. So if you're going to use silver, the bullet is not going to tumble correctly. I'm just going to let you know that right now. You'd have to be like point blank to do it. But buckshot, I hear it works well on rougarous, skinwalkers, dogman, werewolves, vampires. Who knows? But he said, I took that buckshot and I loaded it into 4 cartridges, 12 gauge shotgun shells. So I told Uncle Pablo, I was like, hey, let's go hunting. And he wanted to go get his whole retinue, whatever they call them, the whole entourage, whatever. He says, no, just you and me. He said, and the guy got this wicked look on his face and was like, sure, let's go out in the woods. He said, this guy seemed almost giddy to finish what he started. He goes, at that point, I knew it was him that chased me into the tunnels that day. He's like, as movie-like as this may sound, this is what he told me. He said, this is what happened. This is the truth. He goes, so we go out into the woods, and he tells me, well, you're just going to use that? Or don't you have anything else? He goes, oh, I have a pistol too. He's like, but when I'm hunting, it's going to be, And he's like, okay. He's like, in the bush. He goes, whatever we find, we're just going to shoot it, right? Just wantedly kill animals just for the sake of killing them. This is the kind of person he was. He's like, and we get 60, 70 yards in. And at that point, he goes, I started to get a massive headache. He goes, and I began to feel dizzy. He goes, and I turn around. Or he goes, and my cousin, whatever, Pablo, turns around, and he's staring at me. And he's like, oh, you're finally starting to feel it. And he's like, feel what? And he goes, the poison. He's like, see, when you weren't looking, I switched your gun. He's like, I think you were going to use these on me. And he shows him the silver cartridges. And he's like, and it's a good thing you didn't, because you didn't even do it correctly. You didn't load them, and you didn't pack them right. And after a couple of drinks before they left, he wasn't even paying attention. He's like, and there's sedative poison that's seeped into your skin. It's all over that gun that I gave you. Surprised you couldn't smell it. He's like, but then again, you're not like me. I can smell things that you can't. And he pointed his gun at him. He says, I could kill you right now, but that could cause a lot of problems for what I want to do. And I need your dad and I need you to not be messing with me. At that point, he said, dude, there was no more secrets. We weren't arguing. We weren't going to talk. I just told him, I said, look, mother effer, point blank. He's like, you chased me into those caverns. And he says, yeah, I did. Yeah. And he's like, sometimes the bestial nature of this affliction, as he called it, gets the better of you. He's like, but luckily for you, you went into the right place or the wrong place. And you're lucky to be alive, because those lizards down there, well, they would have eaten us both. And he's like, what do you know about them? And he goes, they exist, I exist. If I exist, they can exist. What does it matter? I avoid them, as you should too. And he's like, well, believe me, I'm not going back down there anytime soon. What cousin Pablo didn't know was that he did have one silver bullet in his 38. Now, like I said before, I know this, and I told him, I said, those don't tumble correctly. And he said, yeah, but it was point blank. I pulled it out from a satchel I had in my side of my pocket right there, which he thought was for ammo. I pulled it out, a snub-nosed 38, and I pointed it at him, and I said, I have one shot right here. I don't know what the hell you are, and I don't give a F. But you tried to kill me. And I pulled the trigger, and I shot him right in his chest. And so I was sitting there listening to this guy talk, and I was stunned. And so I asked him, I was like, the head was kind of spinning at this point. And I said, did you kill this man? And he goes, no, I didn't. But it wounded the hell out of him. And I found out something, and this is what he told me. And this is something that I've confirmed with the other people that I've interviewed about this subject. He says it works like a regular bullet would on a human being. The only problem is they heal very quickly. And if they manage to consume human flesh or drink blood, like their vampire cousins, they can heal fast. He's like, my mistake was I didn't shoot him right in his black heart. So it got him like somewhere up in the shoulder area, because the guy tried to move as he did it, but it nailed his ass. Long story, right? It could just go on and on about how whatever happened and what didn't happen. This man ended up going to the hospital and almost bleeding to death, and he ended up blood transfusions and blah, blah, blah. He didn't breathe a word of it to his dad of who shot him or why or how, because that would be admitting to why he shot him. So he made up a story that he shot himself accidentally. And then when his dad came, he said, I thought you were going to go hunting with him. What happened? He says, well, I decided I didn't want to go hunting with someone that indiscriminately kills animals and has no love for life or whatever. He goes, I'm just not that person. Going and hunting specific animals, that's fine, but I'm not going to just go and randomly kill whatever moves. So I decided to go back to the house, and when I was getting back into the garage, I heard a bang. So I went back out there, and he had shot himself. So he played along. The next day, he goes to the hospital and he has a talk with this guy, and the old crone was there. There were two of them, but one in particular was particularly nasty. She tried to touch him, and he backed up, and he goes, I took a cross, and I just pointed it at her, and I said, don't touch me. I don't know what you are, and I don't care. Get the hell away from me. And he said he took the cross, and he laid it on top of this guy's chest, and the guy began to suffocate, literally. And he said, look, I'm going to take this cross off of you. He wasn't even strong enough to move at that point. He says, but not until you agree to two things. One, you don't ever talk about what happened, and just, we're good. You did the right thing. And two, get the hell away from me and my family. I don't care what dealings you have with my dad. Tell them the deal is off. And he goes, you're making a huge, he says, I'm not making any mistake. You're making a mistake if you don't listen to what I'm going to say. He's like, because I got more where that came from. He's like, I'm not even a violent person, Wolf. He's like, I'm not even, you can tell by talking to the guy, he's not an aggressive person. He's not a storyteller by any stretch of the imagination. No offense to him, but he can't tell the story the way I'm telling it. He was just very matter of fact about these events. This is what happened to me when I was young. He didn't overly dramatize it. He didn't pause at certain moments to build the suspense. No, he just told it very matter of fact. Just like, this is what happened. This is the truth. Believe it or don't believe it. Use the story. Do what you want with it. It's yours. You can say whatever. Just tell it like I told you. And I said, okay. And thank God, because I'm one of the few people who will actually discuss these things, because everyone else wants to pretend like it's not happening. And that's the truth. He says, I don't know how I got the balls to tell this guy what I did. It was like the words were just coming out of my mouth. And I said, I know what that's like. Sometimes words fall out. And he said, so he asked him one question. He goes, and I want to know something. What are you? And he's like, well, I think you know the answer to that. He said he could barely breathe. And he's like, how? He said the little bastard, he wasn't a real big guy. He said the little bastard laughed and was like, how do these other things exist? It just does. And he said, but if you'll take this thing off of my chest wound, I'll give you a little backstory. So he agreed. He took it off. And he said, start talking. This dude told him. He's like, when I was young, and he's, of course, a little older than his dad at this point, and he said, doesn't look his age. And he says, I was bitten. Get this. I was bitten by a wolf. I went into my room as a young man, and I began to sprout hair and fangs and thrash around. And he says, okay, yeah. At that point, he goes, you know what? No mentiras. And the guy started laughing. He says, you think I'm joking? At that point, he goes, I did something really bad, really mean. He's like, and I took that silver cross and I started to push it into his wound until the blood began to come up out of his chest. And I says, I'm not playing with you, dude. I'm not afraid of you. He's like, and I'm not bragging. He's like, but I'm the one person in my family who I believe 100% I am a virtuous man. He's like, and I don't do anything for the love of money. Sometimes he's like, I feel like I was born in the wrong family. I never cared for any of those things. And he told him, he says, I don't care about any of that. You're not going to get me with money. You're not going to get me with lies. You're not going to, he goes, I want the truth. He's like, because I know in my heart that God is on my side and you are an abomination. And this guy says, well, if I'm an abomination, all of mankind is an abomination because I am the end result. Get this, of what man becomes when he finds his higher self. Right? Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Call the Wild here, I guess. You know, when man pushes through and perseveres, he becomes a beast. An evil beast that eats people.
It's kind of backwards.
But this is what some of these idiots actually believe. From talking to the people I've talked to over the last couple of months, I started to learn a lot about how they think. And they have literally, and I'm going to talk about this more in depth when we go to the other channel, Paranormal Roundtable on Rumble. And no offense to YouTube, I still will be on YouTube and do what I do on YouTube. But I can't tell you everything on YouTube. I believe that different people are coming in and out of our lives, and we are learning right now as we speak. We are getting stories from different people about different subjects that are all tying together. And it's happening for a reason, and it's happening very quickly. So you need to pay attention. And there's only really and truly, I'm going to tell you, there's only a handful of people right now in this field that are doing, on YouTube in particular, that are doing right. They're not buying fake subs. They're not buying fake views, likes, comments, and they're not using fake stories, AI generated or otherwise. People that are doing real work, that are trying to bring you what's really going on. And I may sit up here and sound like a damn lunatic, but I'm telling you, if I didn't believe this guy, I wouldn't put him on. I would not. I'm not saying it's the truth because I don't know. I wasn't there. And of course, when I tell the story, a lot of times the timeline that they give me is a little jumpy and I got to put it together. It's called fleshing the story out. And I'm telling you what they told me. And of course, I bring it to life in a story, but this is somebody's real, to them, real event that happened. And it's up to you, the audience, whether you want to believe it or not. It's up to you, the audience, whether you want to participate. It's up to you, the audience, whether you want to join the Patreon and help out or donate, or you want to put the PayPal link up there, or you could donate privately. So you don't, in case it's something to where you don't want people seeing you donate, that's fine. But we're going to be doing more work, more real work. And we are going to go to locations when we can get some time to go and explore and do certain things and try to find the answers to some of these things. And if we don't find them, we don't find them. But so many people are having these encounters and have had these encounters and have been looked at like they were just crazy and called crazy. And people make fun and poo-poo and whatever. And it takes a certain level of balls to sit up here and even repeat it. But I'm telling you, what I believe is that these things have been around for a long time. They're evil. I don't care what anybody says. They're not good. In my personal opinion, there's not a good one. I get sick of hearing people tell these stories about how, the nice, good dog man did the good, nice thing and did that. I don't believe that shit. Okay, sorry.
They're more scared of you than you are of them.
Dog man did my taxes.
It's like great white sharks. I'm more scared of you than you are of them. Like people will be swimming with them, thinking like, they're so majestic. They're peaceful. See, it's like, well, no, they're ambush predators. If you see them, they're not going to attack you, or maybe they just don't have a reason to eat you because they're not hungry at that time. Mm-hmm. It's common sense.
So what ended up happening? He tells this reprobate that his dad had let into the hen house through the love of money. And he asked him a question. He says, "How old are you?" And he says, "I'm over 100. But there's some of us that are a lot older." And he goes, "Are you an immortal?" He says, "No." He asked him a couple other questions too, like, "Are vampires real?" And he said, "Yes, I know some." And he asked him, he's like, "Why were you giving me something to heal me?" He's like, "I honestly felt bad for you. He's like, I honestly regretted trying to go after you that day in the caverns. I didn't know that you were the son of the man that I was doing business with. I never would have did it. And he said, that's not a good answer. I could have been anyone's son and you were going to do it. That's my point. That they'll kill for the sake of killing. Because these beings, and I've heard, this is what I've heard, that certain politicians even do this, that it's what they are. There was one in particular that was jumping all over the Senate floor, acting a fool, and somebody was like saying on TikTok, YouTube, whatever, or Instagram, talking about that person being this or being that. No, it could be just rumors. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that that's the case, because I'm not going to say that people that are in politics or people that are heads of corporations or whatever, because I don't want somebody going out and doing something stupid and thinking, oh, well, Josh Turner said blah, blah, blah. But that was a rumor that was going around. Yeah, I'm not going to say names. I know exactly who it was, who they said it was. And people say a lot of crazy things. But my point is, what if it's all true? Or not even all of it. What if some of it, or part of it, most of it, who knows, however much, is true? What are we looking at? Skinwalkers exist. People see these things all the time. I got a story about a skinwalker. We'll talk about it tomorrow. What are we dealing with? How deep does this go? How deep do the caverns go? And how fitting that the deeper he went into the caverns, the bigger the lizards. On the outside, running around the woods, they got the dog man, wolf man, werewolf, skinwalker, whatever the hell he is, piece of shit. And then you go down into the caverns and you have these Quetzalcoatl, reptilian, whatever. Then you have a big one that comes out, and probably even bigger ones down below. Till you get to the what? The inner earth. The giant, juicy spider king. The lizard king. Who the hell knows? Only God knows what's down there.
I mean, once you introduce like creatures that can reach that size, and then that just means that everything around that has to reach that size to be able to compete with it. So,
Yeah, who knows?
like it could either get worse, or it could be like that's the top, or it could be like, oh no, the reason why there's a lot of them and that they get that big is because there's something even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, what are those big, like
They're eating something.
Yeah, like what are they eating to get to that size?
Whatever's down
They
there.
gotta have a ravenous appetite.
Giant things
There's gotta be a
down
lot to eat down there.
Why do you need to be 15 feet?
Well, that's why
Yeah.
the Admiral Byrd. I mean, look at how many people have gone into the inner earth and claimed that they saw giant dinosaurs down there.
Yeah.
Everything is large. It's like the lost world. As we get closer and closer to the truth, and we start to get more and more information that's coming out, and we're giving it to you, we're going to be attacked more and more. Even to the point of people saying, oh, he's a werewolf. He's a vampire. He's a reptilian. He's a lizard person. Look at his eyes. Whatever. Yeah, sure, dipshit. That's what I am. Sure. That's why I'm sitting up here telling you this, so that it'll go into your head and you'll think that, hey, these things are real, because that's how I want to hide. Dumbest shit ever. And I'm sitting up here telling you these things, and I'm not saying this is what I believe or that I know that this is real. This is another person's encounter. And I asked this guy, and this isn't me tooting my own horn, but I said, we'll call him Frank. I said, Frank, why did you tell me? And he says, because I knew you would repeat it. He's like, I wanted to tell my story to another big YouTuber. And I thought better of it because I knew he wouldn't let me tell the whole story in its entirety. He's like, they just want to cut out bits and pieces so they can use to set a narrative, which we already know that, and then get views. All it is click view bullshit. That's all they care about. And he said something to me, which I appreciate this, and this is a compliment that he gave me and my guys here. He says, you guys, you're not doing this for money. You're not doing this to be cool. You're not doing this for fame. And I said, well, then, in your opinion, what do you think we're doing it for? He said, same reason I am. You're curious. He's like, something happened to me when I was a young man, and I'll never forget it. He goes, I encountered a werewolf. Now, if I look through my phone and I go to my messenger, or I just go to my email, I am inundated with encounters. And some of these encounters say things like, I saw a vampire. Dogman story. Dogman story. Don't know what that is. No subject, but definitely an encounter because I read it already. Dogman. Ghosts, haunted house, ghosts, and Dogman, and then alien abduction, Dogman, ghosts. Don't know what that is. Vampire. It goes on and on and on. When we first started the show, people weren't telling us, hey, I saw a vampire. We called it that because we didn't know what the hell we were looking at or dealing with.
If we called it anything at all, I mean, sometimes it'd be like, this is what we were told. Some kind of creature did this, blah, 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 sucked blood. And we're like, sounds like a vampire, but it's 8 foot tall and has bat wings. And
Yeah. Flying humanoid. People were calling them flying humanoids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, what are you supposed to call that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think...
Thank you, Bull Shizzle, for that donation.
They were probably getting confused with gargoyles as well. So, I mean, you have...
But is a gargoyle just a reptilian vampire type creature?
Yeah, it's like, where's the line drawn between, like...
What are what?
Gargoyle and then, like, a Nosferatu flying-looking vampire and then, like, a dragon reptilian flying thing.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be winged dogmen pretty soon.
Yeah, like those nasty, like bat-like flesh wings are just
So
disturbing.
gross.
It's nasty, dude.
What did it for me, and I'll say this 1,000 times, was the case we covered, the story we got out of Dayton, Ohio. And 11 years later, the people from Alamogordo, New Mexico. 2 different sides of the country. And I still believe to this day, I'm not going to say it was like divine providence or whatever, but like there was a reason why we ended up with those stories. I believe that it set us on a course to where we're at now. Because without that, we would not have been able to know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Bull Shizzle, for that donation. I don't know if I said thank you. 2 donations now. He's done 2. 1 gallon of gas for squatching. Stay safe. We are going to do some squatching. We are going to do some looking for the black dog. We're going to go out to this place and look for the black goat man. We are going to look for dog man. We're going to do a lot of things. Unfortunately, we had to redirect part of our camera fund to the idiots that will not stop. Go to PRT News and read. Not going to get into what it is. Just look at what has been posted. Madeline Chap has retorted to them, and now she has gone to the police because they won't stop.
Sad.
Just because they just do not. I mean, they have all the energy in the world. They don't get exhausted. They don't get tired because, and they want to say this about me. The devil's. I'm kneeling before the devil. Whatever. Where does the energy to keep attacking someone come from? You think God is giving you that energy to attack people? I doubt it. So anyway, you know, we had to take part of that. But we have a person who messaged us yesterday who has some camera equipment, and she said that she's willing to sell it to us for a reasonably a reasonable price so that we won't have to like, not that I don't want to collaborate with other people and use their camera equipment, that's fine, but we need to have our own so that we can go out and do what we got to do at will without having to set something up and then make deals with people that could take, you know, I'm not saying they will, but like take
liberties.
The liberties, because we want it to be PRT. And shout out to Joe Breezy, because Breezy hooked me up with a guy who's willing to help and go and do whatever. But I mean, I could do that with you know, Eric Palacios or Chris Garatana or a multitude of people, Greg Ogles, different people. But we need to be able to do it ourselves, and we need the equipment. And so thank you for the donations, because we've had to turn and use money for legal fees because of these wonderful human beings. You know, if they're really interested in helping Mrs. Chapp, they should maybe leave her alone so she doesn't have to hire my attorney to help, you know, get cease and desist letters.
Yep.
I mean, it is what it is, you know. It's sad that they even like just leave us alone. Just stop. Leave us alone. That's all you gotta do. Stop talking about it. Get you and your little followers. Go make your own channel. Go do your own work and see how many people come to you. And Two Shadows, thank you for that donation. I appreciate that. We all do. But you know, if you're so interested in, you know, doing
it's
some
human
work,
nature.
whatever.
Like, people have like this endless supply of energy and resources that they'll dedicate towards destruction, negativity, anything bad. But if they could just redirect all that energy, all that time, all those resources into doing something positive and productive, their lives would become what they want them to become. But that takes time, and they have to learn things from the bottom up and work their way up towards something like, you know, like you said, like, hey, go start your own show. Okay, well, that requires learning a lot of technical stuff that you don't have any background in. I didn't have any background in any podcasting, any audio, video editing, nothing. When we started this, we just went into it with nobody knowing anything, you know, about this. And Wolf, you've always been a good speaker, but like your storytelling now has been as opposed to what it was when we first started. I mean, like, you've turned it into just a craft, you know. It takes time and energy that you have to focus and put into these things, and it'll pay off. But there's no instant gratification here, you know, and that's what people like. They just want. I don't know. It's like they get instant gratification from tearing someone down instead of building themselves up. Doesn't make any sense, but.
Yeah, before it was like just kind of repeating, you know, verbatim, like people's stories. And I still do that, but what I do now is like I put it together to make it, you know, into one cohesive, you know, like story. And it comes out like, it sounds like, you know, an adventure, an epic adventure, which really is what it is. But most people don't possess, and this is not me talking down on anybody, most people don't possess the ability to retell a story to captivate you and to paint the picture of what happened to them. Now, most, like recently, he was actually in the chat. He's one of the people. Well, no, there were two of them in the chat. And one of them, I know you heard me talking to him. You were in the room when I talked to him. And he was giving me his saying that he wanted me to tell his Bigfoot encounter, and he had a shadow person encounter. And I asked him, I said, would you like to come on and tell a story? And he says no. Mm-hmm. He was just in the chat earlier, but he wanted me to do it. So, you know, I've gotten that knock from people saying, well, you should let other people tell their encounters. Yeah, but when they retell their encounters, a lot of times people are nervous. And then when people get nervous and there's a big audience, they don't give you all of the details because they can't remember everything, because they get kind of a stage fright type thing, which is a natural thing.
So then they start jumping around.
Yeah, they jump around and they don't, and it's not cohesive. And I guarantee you, some of the people have been like, man, I can't listen to that person. If they would have just let me tell the story, you would have listened, because they had a good story to tell, but it's all on how you tell it. Everyone has a story. It's how you tell it that makes it worth listening to. And that's what I'm trying to do. I feel like I'm providing a service to people in that way. I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to tell you, hey, it's going to be okay. Hell, if I know it's going to be okay, I'd be lying if I did. I can't tell you you're not going to have dreams about it or nightmares. And I can't lie to you and tell you that if you talk to me, well, you're going to feel a lot better. It's super cathartic. Just get out there and tell the story, or let me tell it, and then everything's going to be okay. No, I'm not going to lie to you like that. I will not lie. I'm just going to tell the audience what you told me. And I'm going to build the timeline, and I'm going to tell it the way that it needs to be heard. Like you're watching a TV show, or you're listening. That's why you're here. To take in people's encounters and being told. So it's like you're watching a show. You don't have to make shit up. You don't have to improvise too much. Just tell it correctly. Know how to build the suspense and know how to lay it out there. Because the things that happen to these people are incredible. I've heard people tell stories on other people's shows, and I'm like, ah, damn. I could lay your story out there and really grip people so that they really grasp what happened to you. One guy I talked to, I listened to him on another show, man, and I said, I can retell your encounter exactly, not changing anything, but do it in a way that people will want to hear it. And they will be gripped. And they will be on the edge of their seat, because I said, what happened to you was incredible. And retelling his encounter, I mean, but it doesn't do it justice of what really happened to this man. That's my job. That's what I do. And I don't go around saying, I'm the greatest storyteller ever. Boys, what, for what? Who cares? This is, you just do it and do it the best you can, because one thing my dad did teach me, he did teach me some things, was if you're going to do something, if it's worth doing right, and do your best. One of the biggest things I got my ass whooped for was lack of trying. If I didn't put forth effort, and my dad was really hard on me, especially in sports. If I didn't shag a ball, get it correctly, or shoot the basket correctly, or didn't make a tackle correctly. So my dad was an asshole when that came to that kind of stuff, because you didn't try. But he was right. Because why be out there if you're not going to try? Mm-hmm. If you have a job, you do it correctly. My dad had a very strong work ethic. After he was no longer, once I was born and he couldn't play around no more, I give him credit. He went to work 90 hours a week in a cotton gin. He quit goofing off, quit dealing drugs and doing stupid things, and got to work and never looked back. And by extension, your dad did too, Anthony. Mm-hmm. He kind of goofed around and whatever until you were born, and then it was like, phew. Yeah. That's what you got to do. Because as Anthony has said, this is a little off topic, but I got to say it. Once you have children in your life, they become the number one priority, and your life is no longer your own. And stop living like it's girls' night out or boys' night out or whatever. Yeah. You're no longer Joe Six-Pack.
There's no more me time.
No me time. It's time to raise those kids. I ended up raising these boys, and I didn't ask for it. I did not ask for them to come into my life, but God put them there, and I dealt with it. And I've always played the hand that I'm dealt. I'm not here to be a BS artist and to tell you to blow smoke. I don't have to. These people's encounters are incredible, but if that person retold the encounter, and to his own admission, Frank was very open about it. If he goes, I can't tell it like you do. I want you to tell it. Another person, I'll call her SH. She's a female. Got in touch with us, and she wants me to tell her vampire encounter, which she believes was a vampire. When she was telling me the story, she was kind of all over the place and nervous. And Tony, you'd heard a little bit of it, and you were just like, dude, you weren't being mean, but you were just like that. She's all over the place. But I can bring it together.
I remember, I think I said my words were, I think this is going to be like a 2 or 3 phone call type of deal.
Yeah,
you're going to have to get all the details right.
Yeah. Because people don't, and it's not their fault.
No.
But they're reliving something traumatic. And this other YouTuber said something about you need to let them tell all this. That way you can get all this and get that. When somebody retells something that was traumatic to them, it doesn't always come out right. You know, and then they leave out crucial details that doesn't make them a liar. They're having an emotional episode. So when you talk to someone one-on-one, or better, that they could just type it to you and give it to you. I'm a visual and audio learner, which I have done that. I have been able to grasp and understand. I can put it together and do it. And that is something that a lot of people cannot do. Not only can people not tell their own encounters, but they can't relay it to someone. That other person is not going to be able to do it. So it's a rare thing. And until these other people catch up, you're just going to be left in the dust, and you're going to gnash your teeth and be angry and curse us and throw everything you can at us. And you're going to be angry and not even know why. But the fact of the matter is, just shut up, sit down, and let me do what I got to do. Because that's my job. We were all put on this earth for a reason. I want to expose these things. And I'm going to have hell to pay from these beings, whatever, whatever. I don't need you, the ankle biters, hamstringing me while I'm trying to deal with what I'm dealing with. Because until you're actually providing a service and not just going and pitching a tent in the woods and pretending like you're looking for Bigfoot, or maybe you really are looking for, I don't know what the hell you're looking for, I don't care. You're not finding shit. Maybe you should start listening to people that are giving you these encounters. At the very least, get them on your show and let them tell it. And I mean, even if they fumble around, it's better than you just coming up with your anecdotal evidence of some hair and some poop that you claim is a big ape. I mean, it's just the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just, for me, like boots on the ground, I think if you're really doing it correctly, I think it's valuable. But if you're just kind of halving it, then you're no different than any homeless dude who grabbed a tent and went out into the woods. Like I've had to fight homeless people in tents for years now, so that's kind of like what I imagine when you tell me you're going out into the woods with your tent.
Well, yeah, some of them really are.
And like they do spend like an exorbitant amount of time in there, so like they're no different.
Yeah, so what? They're not finding anything. They claim they got audio, you know, whatever. One of my critics actually did have a little bit of audio, and if he wasn't such a dick, I'd say, you know, come on and play it. But he wants to criticize me every chance he gets. It's just a hatred. It's a hatred, and I'll tell you why. The main reason why is because that right there. Liberty just donated $50.
Oh, yeah, they can't stand that.
They can't stand that. They bitch constantly about people donating money to me. So we put the PayPal.
Was the biggest issue with you doing shows in the morning and early or late at night is that you still get donations like that. I think that was the biggest issue they had with you.
Well, the amount of people who show up, you know, I mean,
it's like the engagement though that you.
They're angry
yeah.
because we can get 600-700 people in the chat and they can't. You know, and when you look, and I can do it at any time of the day or night. I could end this stream and go live again at 3 a.m. and I'd get 200 or 300 people at least, if not 4. And so that's when they have a problem, and they talk about that incessantly. But like I said, until you have an ability and you know how, and you use it for the greater good, then shut up. I don't see you doing anything for anybody. You're not helping the field. And you're also stifling things that don't fit your narrative. On here, we'll tell encounters that could be flesh and blood. They could be completely supernatural, metaphysical. We don't know. But damn it, it's our job to tell you, if we're going to be in this field and do it, we got to do it right. And we got to tell you what's happening. This is what's happening. So in conclusion, in this story,
tent and gas money.
Bullshit. So this is why we have the best audience right here. This kind of stuff right here. But you know, we're not out here begging for money. You know, it is what it is. Look, so here's what I'm going to tell you. This individual, Frank, he talks to this werewolf or whatever the hell he is, And he tells him, he says, I want to know, how did you become the way you are? And this bastard wouldn't tell him. He just laughed at me. Kind of like a serial killer.
Yeah. Take pleasure in not giving any answers or closure.
Yeah.
It's like it's a different level of sadism.
But I'll tell you what happened. 2 days later, he died in the hospital. He got an infection in his blood, and they couldn't describe what it was, but it was a blood poisoning. Probably had something to do with the fact that that cross he had on was pure silver, and he had slathered it in that salve that he gave him for his wound when he cut himself in the cavern. And he goes, he put stuff all over a gun and tried to get me to go unconscious. Probably would have ate me in the woods.
Not to mention,
fair play.
I mean, not to mention that he gave it to you to put on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah.
Well, he put it on himself and it healed him.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, but, like,
Yeah.
who knows? Like, really.
Mm-hmm. But that silver, I guess, is very poisonous to these beings. And like I've said before, I believe that it's a parasite that they have. And I think that that parasite comes from the inner earth, too. I think a lot of things, and people probably think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, in the coming years, and like Gaetano was saying on the show with Blondes and Booze, there's going to come a time, a day of reckoning, even before the terrible day of the Lord. It's going to come. And you're going to be faced with a choice, whether you want to believe or not. And it's going to be right there in your face, and it's up to you whether or not you accept it or not. Do you live with the truth, or do you deny it? And we're all going to have to choose a side. You can be atheist, agnostic, and whatever all you want, but the bottom line is there is a war going on, good versus evil. And there is a whole world beneath our feet. And I would hazard to guess that most of that is not on our side. There's a lot of people on the earth, and only a quarter of them are good or doing what's right. I'm not the nicest, most good person, best person, whatever. I'm a sinner. I commit many sins, and every day I say a prayer. This is what I say. I say, Father, I come unto you in the name of Christ. I ask you to forgive me for my sins throughout yesterday, last night, and this day of life so far up until now. I'm a sinner, and I have committed many sins. Thank you for your blessings upon me. Thank you for allowing me to be alive. Thank you for my good health and my freedom. Help me to keep these two things the rest of my life. And then I go on and I ask God to be with and protect and give guidance unto those we love, care about, and are close to, and everyone that they love, care about, and are close to. And especially Nellie, myself, Russell, Gary, Anthony, Tony, Zane, Stefan, people that I love and are business partners, people like Barton Lindley, Chris Garetano, my friend Arash, my friend Squid. Pray for them, pray for their families, pray for the PRT people, the listeners, the people that work for me, those that we work for, that we work with, and that work for us. And then I ask God to be with and protect and give guidance to all these people. Take us to our destination safely, physically, mentally, and spiritually today, tonight, tomorrow night. Take the evil from our mind, bodies, and souls. Help us to have a good day and a good night. Help us to keep our good health and our freedom. Help us to be able to keep working as long as we need to. Help us to stay strong and healthy and achieve in our goals and our endeavors. And then most of all, I say, God, those that are not saved, make for them to accept Christ into their hearts as the Lord and Savior. Make for them to deny evil and repent of their past sins and transgressions and cling to what is good. Cling to what is good. I'm not asking the world to be holy. I'm asking the world to wholly listen. Because, folks, there is real evil out there. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2, 3 years ago, I never, ever would have believed. Think about this, folks, and listen to what I'm going to tell you. If you think I'm a charlatan, you think I'm lying, you think this is a fraud, you think these people are liars, I could have been talking about this 5 years ago. I could have talked about it 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. But guess what? I didn't know at that time, did I? If I would have had the conviction of thoughts of this is what is happening back then, I would have been saying it. There are people in this world who've been screaming these things for a long time, and we've ignored them. And one by one, they've gone away. They've died. Something happens to them. They get lost to obscurity. When I go to Rumble, I'm going to talk about some of these people. And you think that these people are crazy. But they weren't, and they're not. They've been vilified. And all the things these people have been saying for all these years, I've had to come to the harsh reality that it's real. And sometimes I'm up and I'm like, I can't breathe. I mean, this is a heavy burden. And you're getting attacked from above, you're getting attacked from below. What I mean is, you have the elites and the people on top that are all over you, jumping down, trying to suppress you, taking away your views, your subs, whatever they can do on all your platforms, hamstringing you every which way. And then you have the people below you who are just relentlessly biting you like piranhas. Do you think it's easy to sit up here? You think I'm getting paid? I mean, look at the donations. I got some donations. It's like, what, a little over $100. Do you think it's worth the pain that I'm going through? If there was not a spiritual aspect to this, a spiritual reward, a spiritual blessing that comes through it, it would be very hard to sit up here and do this. Because it's not coming through monetarily. It's not helping my physical well-being. I suffer from straight up anxiety. Anthony and Tony can attest to this.
Oh, yeah.
It's taking its toll on me physically. And folks, I don't know how long I'm going to have. This stuff feels like it could take years off my life. I'm doing this for you. I'm sitting here trying to tell you this is what is going on. And I'm using every bit of my skills to try to convince you that there is a war going on, good versus evil. And I'm not talking about these little punks that are talking crap. I'm not vilifying them. I'm talking about the true evil, the true nature of reality. And I may not say things that you agree with, but trust me, I know more than you do. Not everybody in this audience. There's some that are on the same level. But the ones that aren't, I'm trying to help you get caught up to get to where we need to be. Because imagine thousands upon thousands of people who are awake and are aware and know that the spiritual warfare that is taking place is real. It is really happening. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is telling us this constantly in the Gospels, and we're over here playing around with Genesis and who did what and whatever. What a distraction that is. That's fun to think about and talk about, whatever. That is not what's important. What is important is God and his Son, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Because I truly believe that is the only way. That's the only way I've seen anybody get out of any of this. I'm not joking. I'm a big believer in prayer. It does work. Please use it. And if you're an agnostic or an atheist, I understand. I don't respect that because I'm not going to say I'll be lying if I did. But you need to understand something. Prayer works. It's important. Do it. Use it. Go to God every day. 5, 10, 20, 100 how many times a day you need to go to God? Go to God. I go to God constantly. I'm in the gym. I'm going to be in the gym later tonight. You know what I'm going to be doing during the workout? God, help to sustain me, to help me to be able to do this. God, give me the ability to do this. God, help me to breathe. God, help me to live. Give me the strength, God. Give me some of your glory, just a little bit of your power and your glory to achieve and do this for my body, to get rid of this spirit of anxiety, to get it off of me and to help me and to be able to do what I got to do and say the words I got to say and get out what I need to get out. I don't come up here on a Thursday night at 12:30 a.m. to keep you out of bed or to keep you entertained in some fairy tale world so that I can self-aggrandize or whatever the hell these people say. No. There's something deeper, more important, more potent, something that's very potent that we need to have. And it's important. Listen to what I'm telling you. I'm not trying to be the boss of the system of this, whatever it's called, the paranormal world, whatever. I don't want to be the leader of whatever. I'm not trying to be a cult leader. I'm not any of those things. These people are saying all these horrible, mean things, bad things. I don't really care. Like I said, you say whatever you want about me. You're not going to hurt me. But saying things about my family so that they can trip me up and try to get me to, like, whatever. It's like they're on a mission. And they're not receiving the truth. They're gone. Their truth is whatever. It's like ashes, dust. I'll be on the air again tomorrow night. We'll be on the air again Saturday. And we're going to talk about different subjects. And we'll talk again on Sunday. We have a bunch to talk about on Sunday. But guess what? It's all going to lead back to the same place. The battle for your soul. Because they want it. They want to enslave you. They want to use you, the essence, the energy as vessels, and they would take your blood if they could. Believe me, the enemy is powerful, and he's evil, and he's cunning. And they're going to do everything they can. They're going to send servants of the devil to hamstring us and bring us down so that we can't connect with you. Don't let them win. Don't fall for the fake, the fraud, the juvenile ridiculousness.
The charlatans.
The charlatans. So in conclusion, this guy Frank, he told me something and he asked me, he says, do you think that me seeing these beings in Australia had anything to do with what I saw in Belize? And I said, probably. Once you've been exposed to these things, you're more apt to see them again. And they can appear just as flesh and blood as you and I, because they are. But they're not, because they're half spirit and half flesh. Now we are too, but our parents weren't angels. Remember that. Bullshizzle, thank you for the donation. Liberty, thank you for that donation. Who do we miss here? Satchem Jha says, make an international union of paranormal research organizations. Give me some insight into that. Email me at joshturner@prtpodcast.com and give me what your idea is for that. And let's see what we can do. You know, I brought people together twice under one roof to talk about all these things. And after the last conference, folks, I'm going to tell you what happened after the last conference. After that, riding that high of bringing everybody together and uniting the community, immediately people began to try to undermine us and destroy it, what I had built. A jealous, angry little man from Oklahoma started a war. He's still to this day attacking me nonstop. Still, he'll go through little periods where he stops, but he can't help himself. He starts back up, and he's got nothing else.
Yeah, the energy at that second conference especially was so light and positive, and like you said, all these people came together for under one roof, and everything just went off without a hitch. It was perfect. It was great, and so many people felt so at home. That like, I mean, you could tell. And I talked to a lot of
There's a lot of love.
a lot of people,
building.
yeah, and like they felt like they came to the one place where no one was going to think they're crazy, and where they didn't feel alone in their lives anymore because of the things they experienced. They don't have people in their lives who they can share that with. But that kind of energy, doing that much good for people, is very costly. Not just, and I don't mean financially, although that too, but spiritually, because whenever you do something that's so good that affects so many people in such a positive way, there's always going to be some kind of negative spiritual
cancer.
Yeah, you're going to be attacked in some form. It's inevitable. Sooner or later, there's just no avoiding it. But the true test of who you are as a human being is, do you keep going, or do you allow that to make you jaded and give up and just throw your hands up and say, I give up. It's too much, But we've kept going, and it's literally by the grace of God, in the most literal sense ever. By the grace of God, we've continued, and not just survived, but thrived and prospered. I mean, this live stream, it was only announced like a couple hours before it started, and there's 518 people in here. We had almost 700 people in here, but YouTube's
we had over 700.
Yeah, YouTube's been acting weird and kicking people off, and they'll come back. So the numbers have been all over the place. It doesn't matter, but yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, people forget that, like, every light casts a shadow, but that doesn't stop you from lighting your way and still trying to figure out what the correct thing to do is. And the main thing I think that annoys me the most is that people are so focused on what other people are doing instead of just trying to be content and happy with yourself and trying to make yourself be the best person that you can be, or maybe produce the best stuff that you can produce. And then once you're able to do that, and you're able to be in a position where you feel content and you feel like, I'm growing as a person, but I'm in a place where I'm stable, then you can meet like-minded people, and then you guys as a group can build to something, or towards something even better and something greater. Like, as Anthony told you, when we first did this, you don't understand, like, the horror show the podcasting was sometimes. For us now, when we go do a podcast and we have to record one, we go in, takes an hour, maybe an hour 15, and we leave. When we first started doing podcasts, it was like a half a day, maybe.
It took us like 4 hours to record the first episode.
Yeah, no, the first episode was 6 hours.
It was crazy.
Ridiculous.
Like,
we
didn't know anything how to do it. Everything
Yeah.
sounded either bad or incorrect, or we were interrupting each other. We weren't talking right.
And at one point, we started
It was in
recording.
Armando's garage.
Yeah, and at one point, like in one of the early episodes, like we started recording, and then like an hour went into it, and like it wasn't even recording.
Yeah.
We had to start all the way over.
I remember the
But
biggest.
I did.
Yeah, and it was even better the
We
second
did it.
time.
That was funny
It was a
because
good thing we did
Armando
it.
saw my ability to memorize at that point.
Yeah.
He was like, dude, you have like a photographic memory. Because I was able to just repeat it exactly.
That actually kind of, it was funny that happened, because like that kind of became like our way of like, like we'll take a second to like stop, and we'll look back and be like, do we need to change something, or do we think that we could tell this story better now that you were able to say it and have your thoughts out? And so like, because most of the time, like, we just ran it one time through, and we just kind of kind of let it flow naturally. Then when we would do that, the podcasting, we would do that the same, but then like we would cut up on a story and be like, how did that story sound to you guys? And we're like, yeah, that sounded really good. Or, you know, maybe this part, I feel like you stumbled a little bit and then it didn't make as much sense to me. So like we would clarify some things, but like it became a big growing and learning experience to where that helps not only you as a storyteller, because it kind of gave, like, we were giving your input, our input on the stories, but it also helped us as listeners to kind of focus on what we needed to be listening to, on what part of the stories, what we thought, like, you know, would lead to better talking points, how to think of questions, how to focus on things so that we kind of lead to better conversations afterwards. Because I felt like that was what was the most important thing about the podcast. And like it got to the point to where we are now, where, you know, we can have everything 500 people in the chat on a Friday at 2:00, 500 people almost every time. I mean, really, and it's all really thanks to the fans, and it's thanks to having, you know, people that we can rely on. Having Anthony knows that if he needs me to go, if he's busy and he needs me to go do something, I can go do it. And Wolf knows that if he's busy and he needs to go do something, he can tell Anthony and he does it. We have a chain of command and we do things together. There's nothing that, you know, one person ever has to feel like they're doing alone. And I think that that's the part that they are scared of and jealous of.
So Nellie wanted me to tell you guys she's working on the Paratrooper anthem. It's one of the next songs that's going to be coming out. I want to show you something. This right there, 723 every 28 days. Just 2 weeks ago, we were at 2.6 thousand every 28 days. So the attacks from these other channels and the little shits that are doing what they're doing, that's how they're hurting us. Is, you know, we're losing sub counts because of them, because our videos are being suppressed because mass reporting. So I would if I was like them, I would tell you, go attack, you know, go mass report them videos and get them in trouble, whatever. But I'm not that person, because I'm not going to tell you to go waste your time and mine trying to take them down, because they're already down.
Yeah,
They're as low as you're going to go. So what else can they do? So their little strategy is just to mass report. Ike up there in Oklahoma, yeah, I'm talking to you. You know, you just couldn't leave me alone. I left you alone, but you just couldn't stop. You couldn't leave me alone. We know that he is, or was, Cleghorn, that came out, that he was the one harassing and saying all the vile, nasty things, him and Janice. We know that you were behind it. We do. Yeah, pretty much everything it's never ended. And now he's teamed up with Larry. You know, he's over there. He's Lil Bree Bree. We know you're Lil Bree Bree. And you're going and saying all the racist, horrible things and liking Larry's stuff and saying all the stuff that you do. We know it's you. We know that you're under Larry Fisher for president. Yeah, we know all about it. There's nothing you've done that has flown under the radar. It's all going to come out. And it's coming out. Little by little, it's coming out. So just so you know, we're on to you. And I encourage you, Puffy, go ahead and take your best shot. I don't care. They're all part of that greater crap that's happening. They're all part of that, trying to hamstring us and stop us from leading the people to the truth. It's the truth. It's what they're doing. And then you have a guy over there pretending like he has 300, well, he does, fake subs. But he's got 1 billion people that whatever. And then when he does a live stream, it's not even as big as ours. When by what, you're 360 divided by 30? Really? That's how many more people you have than us? I mean, that's a lot. I mean, like, how many times bigger are you than us? Geez, that's incredible. You're like 12 times the size of us, dude. Literally 12 times the size of us. Why are you worried about us? If I was 12 times the size of any of them, I wouldn't care. Just the truth. Who called Mike a troll?
I left a comment addressing it in the chat, but I don't know. I think I mean, I'm not gonna say your name because I know your name is like a joke, but I'm just gonna call you Mr. Hunt. Like he's not a troll. He's not trolling. He's with us pretty consistently in the live streams. I think he just said something that was taken out of context, or maybe it was misunderstood. But yeah, no, he's good. He's fine. He's not messing with anybody.
So anyways, folks, thank you for everybody who donated and showed up on this impromptu live. We will be back tomorrow night. It'll be me and Monica Rollins and Joe Breezy and Abe Cius, and Monica is going to be telling some encounters that she's collected and what she's been doing. And so that's going to happen. I think she was on tonight before Blondes and Booze. I know I was really busy before then. Didn't get to check it out, but yeah, she has a show that she does, but she's going to be coming on with us on Fridays, and so tomorrow night it's going to be her. She's going to be doing a lot of talking, hopefully, and then Saturday we got the UAP thing we're still doing, and that will eventually become a Rumble show where we're going to talk about a lot of things. Ron Yeld says, do you have any haunted places you're guarding right now? Do we? Yeah, Congress. Where Scorpion is at, there's a couple, there's some weird stuff that happens in some of those places because it's an old complex. We have 2 new ones that we don't know yet if they're haunted or not. One of the guards has claimed that he had something weird happen to him in one of the garages. And we have a lot of patrol accounts, and I guess there are a couple of them that are, yeah, I can say they are. One in particular, we have a guy who's going to come on, and he's going to talk about his, that's funny, I was just about to say spiritual and cryptid encounters, and that's Abe's deal right there. You know, so anyway, he's going to come on. He works for us, and he's going to talk about some of the weird things he's seen while on patrol for us, and some of the things he had happen to him when he was younger. And I've known this guy for like 27 years. 26 years. So he was Scorpion's roommate at the time when I hired these 2 knuckleheads to work for me downtown. And yeah, he's seen a lot of things. He's had a lot of weird things happen. These stories go way back. He's told me these stories back when we were in our early 20s. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting. He's going to come on the show and he's going to talk. And then we have another guy who's going to come on and talk about a reptilian that he saw kill someone. So yeah, there's going to be, you know, I just got to find the time to squeeze them into the interviews, whatever. But it's going to get back on track with the pre-records in May. We've decided how we're going to do it. We've come to the conclusion and we're going to like pre-record 3 or 4 and just drop one every week. And then we're probably going to do some pre-records and some interviews on the live streams. But we're going to figure out how we're going to do that, because there's all these other people that go because I would go every night if we could. My voice would hold up, and I would just have guests on 2 or 3 nights a week, and then 2 or 3 nights a week I would retell stories, and I would just do it all the time.
And you might maybe get through like 10% of your overall stories.
Well, we did. God, I'll be sick when I think about it. I just deleted like a bunch of them, man. That was the dumbest shit I ever did in my life. I know I've done some dumb shit. That was pretty up there. And I told Anthony, I called Anthony, he comes down, or you were taking care of the rabbits.
Yeah.
You came into the room and I said, dude, I screwed up. And Anthony goes, I felt terrible. He goes, what'd you do? I said, look, I had all these checked off and then I hit this button. He goes, delete? Yes. Yeah. What did we say about holding in Mr. Delete? No, I delete, yes. And then I took a poop in my pants. Poop my pants!
Yeah, Anthony's
Yeah,
starting
and then
to
I
lay.
called Tony to come clean it up.
Anthony's starting to lay down the law. He's starting to look like Venezuela.
Dude, Anthony is
Your
so...
pants? Straight to
Venezuela?
jail.
Oh, yeah.
Overcooked fish? Yale.
Yeah.
Undercooked
Go to
fish?
Yale.
Yale. You being communist? Yale. Not being good enough communist? Yale. Being alive, breathing? Yale. Someone know you relate? Yale. Don't matter. Whatever. Just everything is Yale. Bull Shizzle says, tomorrow sounds awesome. Safe gym night, Wolf and Crew. Thank you, Bull Shizzle. And Jake Ace, thank you for coming through with $100.
Hey,
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
That makes our night
Last
right there,
minute,
man.
appreciate it,
Makes
man.
it worth it. Because otherwise, we don't want to be here. We want the money. That's the only reason we up in here. We just talk a bunch of shit so we can get money.
Yeah.
And we're shape-shifting, reptilians. Shape-shifting reptilians.
Yeah, and your eyes change whenever someone quotes scripture. They slid up sideways.
Up sideways? I know, I like this, right? Up and down.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
I don't know if this is going to help.
you're a cult leader of lizards or
It looks kind
something.
of scary, though, when you do that.
How magical. You took a picture of a moment that you just randomly paused when you looked ugly and
Yeah, and you,
started labeling
dude,
it.
anyone on video, if you pause anyone
Yeah.
on video in the right moment, you can make them look stupid, make them look weird.
You can put
demonic,
make them
whatever.
look possessed or whatever.
Dude, YouTube does it to me all the time. Like, you'll see, this is what we got to go do.
thumbnail.
Yeah, the thumbnail.
It's a thumbnail.
Here's one of them right here. And another one, you're like,
One of
and then
my
you're like,
favorite pictures.
like
is,
that's me on the, and you're looking through there, like when you're showing somebody at the gym, here's my channel. Here's my channel, and then oh yeah, that's me right there. You're like, and they're like, they're looking at you like, huh? Is this a wrestling channel? Are you Hacksaw Jim Duggins? No, that's just the picture that YouTube chose to make me look like shit. Sorry, I just had to say that because they do make you look very unflattering. But whatever. Tori says, this is my second live. I found this show to be incredibly relaxing. I really enjoy the sound of your voice, not to sound cheesy, laugh out loud. What if I did this, though? What if I was like...
You should tell the story in that soft ASMR.
Where are those ginger chews? You have any?
I don't know where they're at. Buried somewhere.
Here, we have to use this. What is that? What do you got there?
apricots.
Oh, apricot will work. What if I did this?
Oh, is he gonna smack?
Just rustle the bag the whole time.
Actually,
I got a story from a guy in Belize.
Dude, this is making me uncomfortable.
I hate smacking.
When he was saying that, you know, it's kind of funny actually.
I'm about to end this stream right now.
He, when he was chasing the tunnel by it, could have been a dogman.
Why are you doing this to me?
I'm not doing it to
is
you.
that
If you
bullying
feel
I see?
Why are you doing it to the...
if you feel
people.
uncomfortable about me eating delicious fruit, that's on you.
Little people kid mom, Anthony might have eczema, all right? So that's not, he's not a reptile at all, man.
Anyways, folks, you have a good night. Blessings.
Ugh.
That was horrible.
Gross. It was bad enough hearing that in person, but like if like they really heard the smacking and the cringy.
That was the
noises
point.
Even more like that's
I'm saying how it could get
that's
worse.
terrible.
It could have been worse.
I don't want to
It
go
could've
back
been
and
way-
watch
it
this
could've
one
been
now
worse,
because
right?
You could have had to edit
I don't
that.
want to hear it over a speaker. Hearing it in person was bad enough.
You could have had to edit that.
Oh
This is a
god.
personal problem for you, sir. I think you feel uncomfortable because something's wrong with you.
Well, there's a lot of stuff wrong with me, but this isn't one of those things.
Because I'm eating delicious, healthy fruit for myself.
It's not that you're eating; it's the way you're eating it.
I will eat these delicious apricots because I made them for myself. Aw.
Talk like anime.
Now they're like, "Ah, I'm eating these delicious apricots. Ah! That's what everything is over the top with that.
Yeah.
Anyways, folks, I just wanted you to know we really care about you here at Paranormal Roundtable. Good night. Where the hell is the end? Damn it. Well, I kind of messed that one up. I was gonna end it right there, but how the hell do you end it? You changed it. Oh, it's at the bottom.
No, it's a button that says end stream.
Okay, pretend like this last part did not happen. It ended at the weird, uncomfortable, cringy
I wish
part.
I could pretend like this last
But
5
don't
minutes
look.
didn't happen.
Look away! Look
Jeez.
away!
What are you doing? Oh, let me see.
What?
You gotta make his arms like.
Good God, dude! What are you
Like
gonna-
real
how many
subtle
times are you going to use this poor dog
Hang
as
on,
a
wait.
prop? Banjo, bite one
There's a
of them.
way
He
to
has-
do it. There's like a tendon that makes them like.
He's-
Would you stop? Banjo, bite them. Sick them, Banjo.
He's 8,
Get him.
so his contract
Banjo,
is
get
about
him.
10 more
Get him.
years.
No, nothing.
He's never.
Watch this. Tony, hold Banjo. Act like you're hitting Tony.
Oh yeah.
Do it. Act like you're hitting Tony. Like. Get him, Banjo. Get him. Sick him, Roscoe. Come on, Roscoe Pico trains.
Wait.
Bite him. Kill.
Favorite though. It's my favorite. He just hates violence.
Banjo
I
attack
won't
you
even
for
tolerate you hitting yourself.
hitting yourself.
I wonder if he'll do. Banjo. Ow.
He's paying lip service to it. Okay, now, folks, let me tell you this. Here's what's weird. If I go to pretend like I'm hitting Tony, he doesn't react hardly at all. He kind of growls a little bit, and then he rolls over, and that's it. See, that's why I love Banjo, because Banjo, he'll go after them for that's the smacking, whatever, but when I do it, he's just like, and then he rolls over. And you know what? I still think it's because he knew, like, back whenever those it would be storms, you know? He could always, like, jump in the bed with me, and I'd protect him. I think he remembers that. Banjo, good boy. All right, guys. Thank you for donating, everybody. Once again, Bull Shizzle, man. You did it again. Thank you, man. He said it is not, it's Shizzle. You shizzle daily, so you don't have to think about that. All right, guys. I'll see you. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for everybody who showed up on this chat and this live. We'll be here tomorrow. We'll do it again. And we'll do it again on Saturday and again on Sunday. And I'm probably going to do one on, well, definitely on Tuesday. But I'm going to try to do a day side. What I'm trying to do, there's a method to it. What I'm trying to do is figure out how many people show up on the day chat as opposed to the late night chat. So then I might start doing one or the other, and then I might do one of each just to get both crowds, you know?
Yeah.
To distract you from work so you'll be fired, and then also so you'll be tired going into work and you'll also be fired, and then you'll just have time to watch my show constantly.
That's our master plan right
Yeah.
there.
And see, and I don't care about donations because you'll be broke and you won't be able to donate. That's it. It's just all about the brainwash. You know, that's all. That's good old the way we did Maddie. We brainwashed her.
Yeah.
You know, Maddie, you're gonna be on our side, little.
We are a cult after all.
Okay.
We're the Manson family.
All right. Them men that are trying to help you, forget them. Come with us. Let us hurt you. And she's like, okay, because that makes a whole lot of sense. Like everything they do. All right, man. Love Cat says much love and respect. Much love to you, Love Cat. And T-Toey, thank you for showing up. You always show up late. Or were you in the chat and you just saying goodbye? Zachary Factory, thank you for showing up. Who do we got? Shauna Grubbs. Who's Little People Kid Mom?
I don't think I've seen her
That's
before.
probably due to your inner Alf Dog Man Wolf. I've seen you before. Mara Black. I haven't seen Mara in a while. Where have you been, Mara? Mascus Mouse, good banjo. Yes, exactly. He is. Froetian, Lolo. Charles Centers. What's up, Charles, man? They're always hollering at me. Alice Zoom. Who's that? And one of each sounds good. Yeah, that does sound good. And we'll see what we can do. Mike Turner, my brother from another mother. Not related, but hey. Not related, but never hated. I can tell you this. We're going to do it all week. Because we need to figure out, and the main reason is because when we go to Rumble, what's up, buddy? What's up, buddy? Oh, come on. Come on. I'm over there messing with you. Poor little guy. Come on. Come on up here. Come on. Let Uncle Wolf pick you up. I won't use you as a prop like them. They're so terrible. They're terrible, aren't they? They're terrible. They're just terrible. So what we're going to have is us trying to figure out how we're going to do. Somebody trying to French kiss me over here, dude. What's up with that?
Yeah, he likes to do that. You gotta
So
keep an eye on him.
okay? You okay? So what we're gonna do is we're trying to figure out the best time to go onto Rumble and when we're gonna be. So that's what I'm trying to fill out. So maybe we're gonna have a day shift on a Rumble. What's it called? Rumble, and then we'll probably have a night one too. And then those will be the 2 Rumbles a week. You want to get up on the thing here? You want to say goodbye? You want to say goodbye? Bye, folks. All right. Let's get down. There you go. All right. So thank you for showing up and good night. If there's any questions, we will answer them tomorrow.